I learned that innocence isn't about age or where you come from. It's about what you're willing to hide behind that smile. Some people collect lies like trophies, and I became her biggest prize without even knowing the game had started. When you're 57 and think you've seen everything, life has a way of showing you just how blind you really are. If our stories resonate with you, don't forget to like, comment, and tell us where you're watching from. This story was shared with us by one of our longtime viewers. He asked us not to share his name, but he wanted his experience heard. I'm standing in Wat Chalong Temple in Phuket, watching this young woman sweep the courtyard with more grace than I'd seen in decades. Her name was Kulthida, and at 22, she moved like water around those ancient stones. I was there leading a cultural tour for my Nevada-based company, 15 retired Americans wanting to experience authentic Thailand. But watching her work, something shifted in my chest. She looked up, caught me staring, and smiled. Not the practiced smile of bar girls or shop owners hunting for tips. This was different, pure, innocent. I should have known right then that innocent was the last thing she was. You want see inside temple? She asked, gesturing toward the main hall where golden Buddhas sat in eternal meditation. Her English was broken but sweet, like she was trying so hard to connect with me. I nodded, following her up the marble steps. My tour group was somewhere behind us, probably buying overpriced souvenirs, but I couldn't focus on anything except the way she moved through that sacred space. I work here 7 years, she said, lighting incense sticks with practiced hands. Every day, I clean, I pray, I make merit for family. The smoke curled between us, carrying the scent of jasmine and sandalwood. She told me about sending money to her grandmother in Eisen, about dreams of opening a small restaurant someday. Her honesty felt like cool water after walking through desert. You have family in America? She asked, and when I mentioned my sister in Vegas, her eyes lit up with genuine curiosity. Not the calculating interest I'd grown used to from women back home, but something pure, something real. At least, that's what I told myself. When my group finally found me, I was sitting on temple steps, talking to this girl about everything and nothing. My tour assistant, Janet, gave me a look that said she knew exactly what was happening. We need to get to the elephant sanctuary, she reminded me, but I barely heard her. I was lost in Kulthida's dark eyes, in the way she laughed when I mispronounced Thai words. You come back, Thailand? She asked, as my group headed toward the bus. I found myself nodding before my brain caught up with my mouth. She smiled again, that same innocent smile that would haunt my dreams for months. I like that, she said, and somehow, I believed her. After my tour group wandered off to the gift shop, I stayed behind. Called it research for future tours, but really, I couldn't stop watching her. When she finished sweeping, she walked over with that same gentle smile. You like temple? She asked in broken English. Her voice was soft, almost musical. I nodded, suddenly feeling like a teenager again. We talked for maybe 10 minutes. Her English was limited, my Thai non-existent, but something passed between us. She wrote her phone number on a piece of paper torn from a prayer book. You call me, she said. Walking away, I felt lighter than I had in years. The bus ride back to Patong Beach felt like floating. My tour group chatted about their day, comparing photos and arguing about dinner plans, but I sat in the back row clutching that piece of paper like it was made of gold. Janet kept glancing at me in the rearview mirror, shaking her head with the wisdom of someone who'd seen too many middle-aged American men fall for Thai smiles. Boss, you know she's probably got 3 boyfriends sending her money, Janet said during our debriefing that evening. Janet was half Thai herself, born in Los Angeles but raised between 2 cultures. She understood the game better than I ever would. These temple girls, they're not all pure as they seem. But I didn't want to hear it. Not then. I wanted to believe in something beautiful, something that made me feel alive again after 3 years of bitter divorce proceedings and empty nights in Henderson. Linda had taken half my tour business, most of my retirement savings, and what felt like all my capacity for trust. Meeting Colthida felt like finding water in a wasteland. "She's different," I told Janet, and she just sighed. "They're all different, boss, until they're not." That night, in my hotel room, I stared at that phone number until the digits burned into my retinas. Part of me knew Janet was right. Part of me understood the mathematics of a 57-year-old divorced American falling for a 22-year-old Thai temple worker. But the larger part of me, the part that had been lonely for longer than I wanted to admit, didn't care about mathematics. That first phone call lasted 3 hours. Through a translation app and her slowly improving English, I learned about her life. Orphaned at 15, she'd been working at the temple for 7 years, sent money to her grandmother in Eisen, dreamed of opening a small restaurant someday. Her honesty was refreshing after my bitter divorce back in Reno. Linda had taken half my tour business and most of my faith in people. But Colthida seemed different, real. When she laughed at my terrible pronunciation of Thai words, it didn't feel mocking. It felt loving. By the end of that call, I was already planning my next trip to Thailand. "You very funny man," she said when I tried to say, "I miss you," in Thai, and apparently told her I was a buffalo instead. Her laughter came through the phone like music, pure and unguarded. "I teach you proper Thai when you come back." We talked about everything during that call. She told me about her childhood in a small village outside Bangkok, how her parents died in a motorcycle accident when she was 15, how the monks at Wat Chalong took her in, gave her work and purpose when she had nothing left. "Buddha teach us about suffering," she said, her voice growing serious, "but also about compassion. When I see you at temple, I see kind man with sad eyes. Maybe we help each other be less sad." It was the most honest thing anyone had said to me in years. Linda used to weaponize my emotions, turn my vulnerabilities against me during arguments. But Colthida's words felt like an invitation, not an attack. She wanted to heal something in me, and God help me, I wanted to let her try. "I work every day except Sunday," she explained. "Sunday I go to market, cook for myself, maybe watch movie on old phone. Is quiet life, but peaceful." The simplicity of it appealed to me. After years of business stress and legal battles, the idea of peaceful simplicity felt like paradise. By the time we hung up, the sun was rising over Vegas and setting over Phuket. I'd been awake for 24 hours straight, but I felt more energized than I had in months. I called my travel agent before I even showered. 3 weeks later, I was back in Phuket. Told my business partner it was market research, but we both knew better. Colthida met me at the airport, wearing a simple yellow dress that made her glow. Over dinner at a small restaurant near her apartment, she opened up more. Talked about wanting to see America someday, about how different life must be there. I found myself promising to show her Las Vegas, maybe even bring her back to meet my sister. The warning signs were there if I'd been looking. How she always paid with cash. How she never talked about friends. How her phone was always face down on the table. But I was 57 and in love for the first time in a decade. "America must be very beautiful," she said, picking at her paddat with delicate fingers. "I see movies, but movies not real life, yes?" When I described the desert landscape around Vegas, the way the mountains looked purple at sunset, her eyes filled with wonder, like I was describing fairy tales. "Maybe someday I see with my own eyes," she said, and the hope in her voice made my chest tight. I wanted to give her everything in that moment. America, security, love, the whole world if she'd asked for it. We spent that week together, and I felt like I was living someone else's life. She showed me hidden temples tourists never saw, took me to street food stalls where locals gathered. I watched her interact with vendors, seen them light up when she approached. Everyone seemed to love her, and I understood why. "You different from other Farang," she told me one evening as we walked along Patong Beach. Other foreign men, they only want one thing. But you see me like person, not just body. The way she said it, with such gratitude for basic human decency, broke something inside me. How many men had treated her like an object before I came along? In America, women are equals, I told her, meaning it. If you came with me, you'd be my partner, not my possession. She squeezed my hand tighter, and I felt like I was making promises I desperately wanted to keep. But even then, there were moments that didn't add up, like when she excused herself to take phone calls, always speaking rapid Thai in hushed tones, or how she never invited me to her apartment, always meeting me at hotels or restaurants. When I asked about it, she said she was embarrassed by how simple her place was, how she didn't want me to see her poverty. Thai people have shame about being poor in front of rich Farang, she explained, and it made sense. I was rich by Thai standards. Even if I felt financially gutted by my divorce, I had enough money to fly across the world on a whim, enough to eat in restaurants every night. Of course, she'd feel self-conscious. By my fourth visit, we were talking about her moving to America. The visa process would be complicated, expensive. She'd need to quit the temple job, find somewhere to stay while we sorted paperwork. I suggested she move in with me temporarily. I had a house in Henderson with plenty of space. Her eyes lit up like I'd offered her the world. Within 6 weeks, she was living in Nevada. Those first months were perfect. She cooked traditional Thai food, decorated the house with Buddha statues and jasmine, made me feel alive again. My neighbors loved her. My sister thought she was sweet. Even my ex-business partner admitted I seemed happier. But perfection, I've learned, is usually performance. "This house so big for just you," she said on her first day, wandering through rooms I'd barely used since Linda left. In Thailand, whole family live in space smaller than your kitchen. She seemed genuinely amazed by American excess, by the idea that one person could own so much space. She transformed the place almost overnight, hung silk scarves over harsh overhead lights, filled the kitchen with the scent of lemongrass and chili, created a small shrine in the corner of the living room, complete with Buddha statue and offering bowls that she filled with fresh fruit every morning. "I make merit for us," she explained when I asked about the shrine. "Buddha bless our love, keep us safe from bad fortune." It felt sacred, having her prayers filling my empty house. Linda had been aggressively secular, rolling her eyes whenever I mentioned anything spiritual. But Kulthida brought faith back into my life without even trying. My neighbors were charmed by her. Mrs. Rodriguez next door started bringing over groceries when she saw Kulthida walking to the store every day. "That girl's too skinny," she told me. "You need to feed her better." But Kulthida was naturally small, moved with a dancer's grace that made her seem ethereal rather than undernourished. "American food so heavy." Kulthida laughed when Mrs. Rodriguez brought over a casserole, my stomach not used to so much cheese and meat. But she ate it anyway, not wanting to seem ungrateful. That was Kulthida's thinking of others, always trying to make everyone happy. She enrolled in English classes at the community college, spent hours practicing pronunciation with YouTube videos. Her determination amazed me. She'd wake up at 5 every morning to meditate and study before I got up for work. By evening, she'd have dinner ready and the house spotless, but she never acted like domestic work was beneath her. "In Thailand, we say, 'Home is heart of family,'" she told me. "I make our home beautiful because I love you." Simple words, but they hit me like revelation. Linda had treated our house like a hotel she occasionally visited between shopping trips and girls' nights, but Kulthida made it feel like a sanctuary. For 6 months, I lived in paradise. That's the only way to describe it. I'd come home from work to find candles lit, Thai music playing softly, the smell of coconut curry filling the air. She'd greet me with genuine excitement, like my arrival was the best part of her day. We'd eat dinner on the floor, Thai style, talking about our days and planning weekend trips to explore Nevada's desert landscape. "I never see mountains so big," she said during our first trip to Red Rock Canyon. "Thailand have mountains, but different. These looked like sleeping giants. She took hundreds of photos, sending them to her grandmother with messages I couldn't read, but could feel were filled with joy. But perfection always has a price. I should have known that by then. The first sign something was wrong came through my credit card statement. A charge for $800 at a casino I'd never been to. When I asked Kulthida about it, she looked confused. Innocent. Maybe mistake, she suggested. You check with bank. Her English had improved dramatically in 6 months, but suddenly she was struggling with simple words. The bank confirmed the charge was made with my card, but couldn't provide details about where exactly. Kulthida suggested maybe someone stole my information, made sense identity theft was common. I cancelled the card, got a new one, but something nagged at me. The charge was made on a Tuesday afternoon. The same Tuesday, Kulthida said she'd spent all day at home, cleaning. You worry too much about money, she told me that evening, massaging my shoulders while I stared at the bank statement. Buddha teach us not to attach to material things. Money come and go, but love stay forever. Her fingers worked knots from my neck, and her wisdom felt profound. Maybe she was right. Maybe I was being paranoid, seeing problems where none existed. In Thailand, we have saying, she continued, rich man count money, poor man count blessings. You have many blessings, good house, good job, woman who love you. Why you focus on missing money? It made sense when she said it. I'd been burned by Linda's financial manipulation, trained to see threats where none existed. Kulthida was trying to teach me Buddhist detachment, and I was responding with American paranoia. I felt ashamed for doubting her. You're right, I said, putting the statement away. I'm sorry for being suspicious. She kissed the top of my head, and the matter felt closed. But late that night, lying in bed while she slept peacefully beside me, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. The casino charge wasn't huge, $800 wasn't going to break me, but it was the first crack in what had felt like perfect trust. I found myself paying closer attention to her routines, her explanations, her reactions when I asked innocent questions. I hated myself for it, but I couldn't help it. You different this week, she said after I'd been particularly quiet during dinner. You still angry about credit card? Her concern seemed genuine. But then again, everything about her seemed genuine. That was the problem. I'm not angry. I lied. Just tired from work. But she saw through me, the way she always did. That night, she made my favorite curry and wore the silk dress I'd bought her in Bangkok. She was trying to fix whatever was broken between us, and I wanted to let her. But trust, once cracked, is hard to repair. A month later, my neighbor Mrs. Chen knocked on my door, asked if everything was okay with my niece. I was confused, Kulthida, and I had never pretended to be related. Mrs. Chen explained that Kulthida had been telling people in the neighborhood that I was her uncle, helping her through college, that she was studying hospitality management at UNLV. When I confronted Kulthida that evening, she laughed it off. American people not understand Thai relationship, she said. Easier to say uncle than boyfriend. But I'd checked. She wasn't enrolled at UNLV. Wasn't enrolled anywhere. When I mentioned this, her laugh became sharp. Why you checking on me like police? Mrs. Chen, very nice lady, but she asked too many questions, Kulthida said, stirring the curry with more force than necessary. I tell her your family, because easier than explain. American people think Thai women only come here for marry rich man. The explanation made sense on the surface. I knew how people looked at relationships like our soldier, American man, younger, Asian woman. The assumptions were ugly and often wrong, so I understood why she'd create a cover story. But the UNLV lie bothered me more. Why did you tell her you were in school? I asked, trying to keep my tone neutral. There's nothing wrong with taking English classes at the community college. Her stirring stopped completely. For a moment, the kitchen was silent except for the bubbling curry. I say many things to neighbor lady. Maybe I not remember exactly what I say. She turned to face me, and her smile was different somehow. Tighter. Why you talk to neighbor about me anyway? I wasn't talking to her about you, I said. She came to me with concerns. But even as I said it, I realized how it sounded. Like I was checking up on her, investigating her stories. Like I didn't trust her. You not trust me? She said, and her voice was so small, so hurt, that I immediately felt like a monster. You think I lie to you? Tears started forming in her eyes, and I watched her transform from confident to vulnerable in seconds. No, baby, I trust you, I said, reaching for her hands. I just want to understand why. But she pulled away, wrapping her arms around herself like she was protecting against attack. In Thailand, we have word for this, she said, switching between English and Thai in her distress. When man love woman, but always question, always doubt, it kill love like poison kill flower. She was crying now, real tears that made her mascara run, and I felt like I was drowning in guilt. I spent the next hour apologizing, promising to trust her more, explaining that my divorce had left me paranoid about everything. She eventually forgave me, letting me hold her while she whispered forgiveness against my chest. But something had shifted between us. Some invisible line had been crossed. That night, she was particularly affectionate, as if she was trying to prove something to both of us. But lying in the dark afterward, I couldn't shake Mrs. Chen's words. Why create such elaborate lies for neighbors? Why not just tell the truth? Red flag 3, hit at 2 a.m. on a Saturday. Kultheda's phone rang while she was sleeping. Without thinking, she answered in rapid Thai, her voice urgent and stressed. When she realized I was awake, she quickly hung up and claimed it was a wrong number. But I'd caught enough to know she was lying. She'd said, Farang, foreigner multiple times. And I definitely heard her say, money, in English. The next morning, I asked her about it. She became defensive, angry, started crying, saying I didn't trust her. That Americans always think Thai women are scammers. Her tears felt real, and I backed down, apologized, promised to trust her more. That's when I realized manipulation doesn't always look like manipulation when you're living inside it. Was wrong number? She insisted over breakfast, but she wouldn't meet my eyes. Someone call about job, but number wrong. I tell them they have mistake. She buttered her toast with shaking hands, and I wanted to believe her so badly it physically hurt. At 2 a.m.? I asked gently. Who calls about jobs at 2 a.m.? The question came out more accusatory than I intended, and I watched her face crumble. Different time in Thailand, she said. But we both knew that didn't make sense. Thailand was 14 hours ahead. 2 a.m. in Vegas meant 4 p.m. in Bangkok. Prime business hours, not the middle of the night. You not believe me, she said, pushing her plate away. You think I lie about everything now. Ever since credit card thing, you look at me like I'm criminal. Her voice broke on the last word, and I felt like I was torturing an innocent person. I don't think you're a criminal, I said, reaching across the table for her hand. I just want to understand. Understand what? She snapped, jerking away from my touch. That Thai woman can't have private conversation, that everything I do must be explained to jealous American boyfriend? Her accent got thicker when she was angry, and her eyes flashed with something I'd never seen before. But then, just as quickly, she deflated. The fire went out of her voice, replaced by hurt so deep it made my chest ache. I love you, she whispered. Why you not see that? Why you think I won't hurt you? I spent the rest of that day apologizing, buying her flowers, taking her to the expensive Thai restaurant she loved. She forgave me eventually, but something had shifted again. The easy trust we'd shared was becoming complicated weighted down by questions neither of us wanted to ask. That night, she made love to me with desperate intensity, like she was trying to prove something through physical connection. But afterward, lying in the dark, I couldn't stop thinking about that phone call, about the fear in her voice when she realized I was awake, about how quickly she'd switched from urgent Thai to sleepy confusion. "I love you," she whispered against my chest. And I wanted to believe her. But love, I was learning, wasn't always enough to quiet doubt. Flag 4 came by accident. I was cleaning out junk mail when I found an envelope addressed to someone named Amy Chen at my address. Inside were bank statements for an account with my address but not my name. The account had been opened 3 weeks after Kulthida moved in. There were regular deposits, always in cash, ranging from 200 to 500. When I showed Kulthida the statements, she went pale, started speaking rapid Thai, pacing around the living room, finally admitted that Amy was an American name she sometimes used for business. "What business?" I asked. She claimed she'd been selling handmade jewelry online, using a fake name because she was embarrassed about her English. But the dates on the deposits didn't match her story. They were too regular, too specific. "Why you open mail not for you?" she demanded, snatching the statements from my hands. "This private business, not your business." But her hands were shaking, and her face had gone white under her natural tan. "It was delivered to my address," I said, trying to stay calm. I thought it was a mistake. But even as I said it, I knew it wasn't a mistake. The account was deliberately using my address, and Kulthida knew about it. "You have no right," she said. But her anger felt hollow. She was scared, and we both knew it. American men think they own everything, house, woman, even mail that not belong to them. "I don't think I own you," I said. But she wasn't listening. She was staring at the bank statements like they were written in poison, her breath coming in short, sharp gasps. "Okay," she said finally, sinking onto the couch. "I tell you truth. I have business selling jewelry online. I use American name because people trust American seller more than Thai seller." Her explanation came out in rushed, practiced sentences, like she'd rehearsed it. "What kind of jewelry?" I asked, and she gestured vaguely toward her room. "I make from stones, silver, nothing expensive, just simple things for American ladies who like ethnic style." But when I asked to see her workshop, her supplies, anything related to this business, she became evasive. "Everything in storage," she said. "Too much mess for nice house." When I offered to help her set up a proper workspace in the garage, she shook her head quickly. "Thai way, very different from American way. You not understand." I wanted to understand. I wanted to believe her explanations made sense. But the bank statements told a different story. The deposits were too regular, too varied. They looked less like jewelry sales and more like something else entirely. That night, she was quiet during dinner, picked at her food, and kept glancing at me like she was waiting for another interrogation. I tried to act normal, but the envelope had changed everything. There was a secret account in a fake name at my address, and I had no idea what it meant. "You angry at me?" she asked as we got ready for bed. She stood in the bathroom doorway wearing the silk nightgown I'd bought her, looking young and vulnerable and absolutely terrified. "I'm not angry," I said, and it was true. I wasn't angry. I was confused, suspicious, and increasingly worried about what I was going to discover next. But anger felt too simple for what I was feeling. "Then why you so quiet?" She climbed into bed beside me, curling against my side like she always did, but her body felt tense, coiled like a spring. "I'm just trying to understand," I said into the darkness. "The account, the name, all of it. I want to help you, but I need to know what's really going on." She was quiet for so long, I thought she'd fallen asleep. Then, in a voice so small I almost missed it, she said, "Sometimes truth more dangerous than lie. I hired a private investigator. Cost me $500, but I needed to know what I was dealing with. The report came back 3 weeks later, and it destroyed everything I thought I knew about the woman I loved. Kulthida wasn't her real name that was flag 5. Her actual name was Pornfan Sirisak, and she wasn't from Aizen. She was from Bangkok, from a middle-class family. The temple job was real, but she'd been fired 6 months before we met for stealing from the donation box. Flag 6 was her Agish. He wasn't 22. She was 28, with a criminal record for credit card fraud in Thailand. She'd been deported from Australia 2 years earlier for overstaying her visa and working illegally. When I read that report, sitting in my kitchen while she was out shopping, I felt something break inside my chest. Every word in that report felt like a physical blow. Her real name was Pornfan Sirisak. She was 28, not 22. Born in Bangkok to a middle-class family, not orphaned in a rural village. The grandmother she supposedly sent money to? Dead for 3 years. The temple job? She'd been fired for theft 6 months before we met. But the worst part was the criminal record. Credit card fraud in Thailand. Deportation from Australia for visa violations and illegal work. A pattern of targeting older Western men through dating sites and tourist locations. I was reading about my girlfriend like she was a case study in international romance scams. The PI had included photo surveillance shots of her entering and leaving places I'd never seen. Meeting with other Thai women at coffee shops in Las Vegas. Getting into cars with men I didn't recognize. There was even a photo of her at the Red Rock Casino, the same one where that first mysterious charge had appeared on my credit card. My hands were shaking as I read through bank records, immigration documents, police reports from multiple countries. This woman I'd fallen in love with was a ghost, a carefully constructed persona designed to extract money from lonely American men. And I'd fallen for it completely. The PI's notes were clinical but devastating. Subject maintains multiple identities and bank accounts. Known associates include other Thai nationals suspected of similar fraud activities. Currently under investigation by ICE for visa violations. Recommend client cease all financial support and consider reporting to authorities. I sat in my kitchen for hours, reading and rereading that report, while Kulthida Pornfan was out somewhere living whatever her real life looked like. The woman who made me Thai curry and meditated at the Buddhist shrine and told me she loved me every night before sleep. She didn't exist. She was a character, a performance, a lie so perfect I'd built my future around it. When I heard her car in the driveway, I didn't know whether to run or stay. Part of me wanted to pack a bag and disappear before she came inside. Another part wanted to confront her immediately, to demand explanations for every lie she'd told. But mostly, I just felt empty, hollowed out. Like someone had reached inside my chest and removed everything that mattered. The front door opened, and I heard her usual greeting. "Hello, my love. I bring surprise for dinner." Her voice was bright and cheerful, exactly the same as it had been for 8 months. But now I knew it was all performance, and the sound of it made me physically sick. That evening, I put the PI report on the kitchen table and waited. When Kulthida came home, carrying shopping bags from expensive stores I couldn't afford, she saw the papers immediately. Her face didn't change. No surprise, no shame, no fear, just nothing. "How long you know?" she asked in perfect English. No broken grammar, no cute mispronunciations. Her accent was still there. But everything else was performance. I asked her to explain everything. Every lie, every scam, every moment of manipulation. She sat down across from me like we were having a business meeting. Started talking in that same perfect English about survival, about opportunities, about how American men never learn. The woman I'd fallen in love with was gone, replaced by someone I didn't recognize. I said, my voice sounding strange and distant even to me. "I've known for 3 weeks. It wasn't true, but close enough. I'd suspected for longer, but knowing and proving were different things." She nodded like she was processing business information. No tears, no apologies, no explanation, just a calm acknowledgement that the game was over. "You hire investigator," she said, flipping through the papers. It wasn't a question. Yes. I watched her read her own criminal record, her fake identities, her real history. She studied the documents like she was reviewing a resume, occasionally nodding when she came across particularly accurate details. "Very thorough," she said finally, setting the papers aside. "Must cost you much money." Her English was perfect now. No trace of the broken grammar that had once charmed me so completely. How long had she been hiding her real intelligence? How many hours had she spent practicing broken English in the mirror? "Who are you?" I asked, and the question came out more broken than I intended. "I mean, who are you really? Because the woman I've been living with for 8 months, she doesn't exist, does she?" Pornfanai had to think of her by her real name, now leaned back in her chair and studied me like I was a specimen in a laboratory. "She exists," she said finally. "She exists because you need her to exist. You want innocent Thai girl who need rescue, so I become innocent Thai girl who need rescue. You want woman who cook for you and worship you and make you feel like big, strong American man, so I become that woman." Her words hit like physical blows. Each one was calculated to hurt, designed to destroy whatever illusions I still held. And they worked. I felt myself shrinking in that chair, becoming exactly what she said I was, a pathetic, older man who'd fallen for the oldest trick in the book. "But why?" I asked. "Why me? Why this?" I gestured around the kitchen, at the life we'd built together, at the Buddhist shrine she'd maintained so carefully for 8 months. "Because you easy," she said, and her smile was nothing like the innocent one I'd fallen in love with. "Because you lonely and desperate and willing to believe anything that make you feel special. Because you have money but not too much money. House but not too big house. You perfect target." The casual cruelty of it took my breath away. She was describing me like I was a business opportunity, not a human being she'd shared a bed with for 8 months. Like my loneliness was a commodity she'd exploited for profit. "Did any of it mean anything to you?" I asked, hating how desperate I sounded. "Any of it? At all?" She tilted her head, considering the question seriously. "You want honest answer?" When I nodded, she continued. "You kind man. Not cruel like some farang. You treat me like person, not like toy. If different situation, maybe I could love man like you. But this, not different situation. This business." The 7th red flag was the worst one because it revealed how completely I'd been played. Pornfanai couldn't think of her as Kulthida. Enna explained that I wasn't her first American, or her second, or even her 5th. She had a system, a network. Thai women working similar schemes across the country, sharing information about vulnerable older men. They called men like me golden geese. Not rich enough to be suspicious, but comfortable enough to be worth the effort. She showed me photos on her phone of other men, all between 50 and 70, all looking at her with the same adoring expression I'd probably worn. Some were still sending her money, believing she was studying or helping family. I was just one source in a portfolio of income streams. The innocence, the broken English, the temple job, the dreams of America. All of it was calculated, rehearsed, perfected over years of practice. "You want see real business?" she asked, pulling out her phone. "You pay for private investigator, so you deserve see everything." She scrolled through photo albums, showing me pictures I'd never seen before. Pictures of her with other men, all older, all white, all looking at her with the same besotted expression I recognized from my own face. "This Robert from Seattle," she said, showing me a photo of her and a grey-haired man at Pike Place Market. Send me 800 every month for 2 years. Think I study nursing. She swiped to the next photo. This Gary from Phoenix. Very generous man. Pay for my sick mother's surgery 3 times. Another swipe. This Marcus from Denver. He won't marry me. Bring me to America. I tell him I need save money for wedding dress. The parade of faces continued. Dozens of men. All variations of the same theme. All lonely, all hopeful, all being systematically deceived by the woman I'd brought into my home. I wasn't special. I wasn't chosen. I was just another mark in a long line of marks.